Checking 1 2 3. Can you hear me now? Thank you. One. Thank you for letting me know. 1 2 3. Checking 1 2 3. Let's see. Checking 1 2 3. Can that hear me better? How's this, guys? There's a bit of a delay on the stream, so I actually don't know when I can't hear when you can't hear me. But let's see. How about now? How about now? Amazing. All right. So, repeating what I just said, super happy to be here today with you guys. This is our first stream ever since moving into our new Family Without Borders house. And if you haven't heard about that initiative yet, basically we've started a kind of co-living, co-working house for entrepreneurs, for creatives, for people who want to benefit from having meaningful conversations and shared value from having a bunch of really smart, really passionate individuals together in one place, just working on our startups, making sure that we are going about our dreams the best way we can. And it's been really exciting. I know if you're in the community, you've been seeing some of the pictures. We've been sending out some of the updates. Us setting up the house. Us going on adventures together. We went rock climbing yesterday. So a lot of fun stuff. But of course, you guys also can see like a brand new stream setup here. Looks very different from what we have before. It's going to keep looking different. We have a bit of other wall decorations coming in soon. But yeah, just a lot of fun, guys. Really appreciate having you guys along. And today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding in some really well requested improvements to our super package, to our gamification project, and to our Be Intentional series. To make sure that everybody has an opportunity to learn how I build these new things, as well as be able to duplicate this after we are finished building today. So let me see. Let me guys know whenever I can like up the volume and stuff like that. I think it's important. Maybe this is the gain. There's a lot of new things to set up here, so just let me know when to adjust like small things like camera angle, like mic volume, whatever you need, and I'll be sure to do that. Let me switch now to our presentation view and let's get started. So let me do this. The presentation view, let's go here, and I'm going to change this look to right here. Amazing. So today we're going to be looking into some of the things that we've already built for our template updates, as well as building brand new things. So definitely stick around for both of them. I want to first go over a little bit about what we've already built on other live streams, just to have you know, like, hey, this is going to be part of today's build, today's release, today's template release, and also go through a bit about what I want to build for the 3 big things that have been highly requested by so many of you. So let's get started. I'm going to also switch over here so I can see your chats and everything. Alice is saying that she couldn't hear, but it was Darius's fault. Darius, come on. I'm joking, but yeah. So basically, we started with the GTD inbox. I think that was the first thing we built together as a family early this month. Basically, this inbox helped you start putting in information. So let me just open it up actually. So basically, it helps you get to inbox 0. The idea is that we have a lot of shower thoughts that come into our minds as we take a shower, as we wake up during the day, as we start planning out our various tasks that we have to do, or even when we're doing other tasks, we have other things that come up in our minds, in our brains, and we have to quickly put them somewhere, but also have like a workflow to help us easily process it and say, hey, what do we do with this new task? Is it a task even, or is it a project? Is it a goal? Is it a key result? Or is it something that I should do immediately because it's like a 2-minute thing to do? This is the template to do that, and now it's included inside your packages. So basically opening it for you, you capture your thoughts, and then you have a place where it can resurface things that you might want to review. You have a whole thing about like, how do I process it? Is it actionable? Is it not actionable? There's a whole, workflow diagram that you can watch. You can scroll through and see like, hey, what am I supposed to do? Is it urgent? Is it important? And if not, then should I delegate it? This is the template for you to make all these smart decisions in your life and help you get to inbox 0 and less clutter inside your mind. So super important. The next thing that we built was a self-regulation tracker by Anne. And Anne's in the chat right here. Anne, give a shout, say hi to everyone. This is her build, and we're super proud of her about that. But basically, for this build, this one's all about, this one's a video. So let me open it here. Let's see, how can I open it? Self-regulation tracker, it's over here. Yeah, so self-regulation tracker is right here. And this one was all about, how do you deeply process a certain situation or certain feeling you're having about a situation, and how do you go down all the way to the nitty-gritty of like self-analyzing your feelings. And this is with like, I think 40 or 50 years of experience, inside, therapists' offices, inside like the whole process of how, a therapist will essentially get you to open up and peel back the onion, if it will, about your feelings and really get to the point of, what's really happening here and how can I do something about it? What is the actionable step I can do about it? So really nice, really cool. We've added a lot more detail ever since we did do the live stream around 2-3 weeks ago. So definitely, check it out. Super interesting. You basically go through 8-9 steps of, feeling processing and really understanding like what you're trying to like what really happened there, what are the cognitive biases perhaps that you're observing this situation through, and how can you not do that anymore, which is very important and something I don't think we nearly enough go through and process during our days. So super interested and excited for everyone to explore that as well in the new package that we're sending out. I'm also going to just move the screen around just to make it easier to see. Right here, so that like that. and maybe I'll zoom in just a little bit more so everyone can see better as well. Let me know when you guys can not see anything. Like this setup needs a little bit of work still, and anything that you guys tell me to do, I will strongly consider. So please do that. I think even my camera is like a bit off. Small little things. Um, Anywho, so that's the advanced GTD inbox. That's the self-resolution tracker. The three things that we want to build today, and that's why we're in a bit of a jam-packed time frame, is we want to build review cycles, we want to build a habits database, and we want to build a values slash attributes slash aspects database. We haven't really figured out what the exact wording of that is, but let me explain what this is first, okay? So whenever I build something new, I want to go with the why, what, and how. It's really important for me to know exactly why am I building something, what I'm trying to achieve, and how do I go about it. So let's talk about review cycles. Review cycles. Let's talk about habits database. Let's talk about values database. Okay, so what are each one of these? And maybe some of them are more intuitive than others just by the name, and some of them are more, I guess, some of them are more harder to understand, which is why I'm happy to explain it. So review cycles, basically what's this all about is the why is we want, let me just make some more space. We want to have a easy to follow routine every week, month, and quarter. I think you can do year at the very end, like at another stage. But we want to have an easy to follow routine every week, month, and quarter to keep our lives on track. I think, it's really interesting to me that we have all these systems that can now organize our lives, that can now put our lives into order, but we're human. We don't always stay true to what we initially set out to do, and that's totally fine. That's why we need review cycles to kind of take stock of what's been happening and have an opportune moment to easily go in and say, hey, these are the things that are kind of falling apart. These are things that are doing well, and not having the things that are falling apart drag down everything that you're doing well, because the fact is that the things that you're doing well should be kept isolated and siloed, and the things that you're doing not well should be, reviewed and looked upon. So that's what we want to, that's why we want to do, what we want to achieve with this. So these are the measurable outcomes. So what measurable outcomes we want to have is we want to have a checklist. Well, we want to have a few things. We want to have everything that has been done in that review cycle. So like I'm talking about successes you've had, failures you've had, all those kind of things. Success, wins, right? Wins, successes, failures, learning lessons, etc. Everything that has been done in that review cycle to automatically roll up. So automatically be showcased for a meaningful review. And then we want to also have a easy way to, like, a checklist to follow every review cycle to take action if things have fallen apart. So that's also something really important to build in this review cycle. So how? Let's talk about how, right? So there's many hows, and this is where I'm going to start showing what I've already built to begin with. There's some ideas I already have, and of course, the whole point of this live stream is to not only have what I think might be the best way, but have you tell me what the best way is. So that's why I'm really excited to have you guys start brainstorming on this with me as well, because I think the idea of review cycles is something that everybody wants to use. And again, it's not like we don't already have a template to kind of think about this. We had always the alignment template, right? how do you think of yourself in terms of a founder mindset? How do you think of yourself in terms of a manager mindset, and so on and so forth? But I don't think it's necessarily very clear on like exactly, hey, if I am stuck, if I am in this stage, I'm reviewing my week and I am, let's say, not as effective as I want it to be, what is my next step? How do I overcome this hump? How do I get farther, right? So this is important. So the how is, a separate database for weeks, months, quarters, years. So each one is a separate database, so we can roll up information. That's something that I was thinking that could be done. Additional roll up properties in order to extract out information from our core databases. And if you guys aren't familiar with our core databases, let me make sure you know where that is. So if you ever go into our packages and you go into this whimsical board here, which is just a easy flow charting tool that we use. Oh, gotta sign in for this one. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so if I zoom in here, you can see that these are our 3 master databases, whether it be the area of competence, the knowledge hub, or the success plan. So which of the 3 kind of dive into our into the review cycle, and of course, then how do we go about it? So let's go into this. You'll notice that we now are trying to create a new page called review cycles. And let me just talk about weekly insights first so we can at least get a good grasp of what we're trying to do. And then we're going to build the monthly insight and then finally the quarterly insight. So let me also type that in. So the monthly insight is below here, and then the quarterly insight is here. Quarterly insights and monthly insights. There we go. And let's make this purple. This purple here. Amazing. Okay, let me just grab a little bit of water. Remember to drink water, guys. Hydrate. Awesome. So when we talk about weekly insights, basically what we're trying to talk about is, how do we immortalize our data so that we can see it all, everything that happened within that one specific week, and then how do we be able to look back on it if need be, right? And also how do you process it this moment moving forward, right? So what you notice here is we have this database entry called October 31st to November 7th. So this is from, I believe, Saturday to Saturday, right? So Saturday to Saturday, and today's my Saturday. For many of you guys, it's Friday. So if I open this up, let's open it in a new tab so we can see it clearly. So you'll see that we have a few things that are quite important actually. What you see is that we have the date range, so it's October 31st, November 7th. We know which month it is. It's November 20th, right? And then we have a lot of roll-up properties. And how a roll-up property works is that depending on the relational property that is referenced inside this database, the rollup will essentially choose anything that you want to showcase inside this page. So what do I mean? So for example, inside daily quest, I've already defined that everything like November 1st to October 31st to November 7th, this should all be inside here. So if I wanted to, let's drag it around just to make it easier to read. November 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, right? So this is all of the daily quests that we've kind of are referencing. We're saying that these are all part of this week, October 31st to November 7th. Super easy. And you'll see that some of them have information filled up. So for example, October 31st has information filled up, November 1st has information filled up, and so on and so forth. And there's obviously more things that could be filled in. But you'll see that immediately as we fill in stuff into there, let's say we start filling in stuff for November 3rd as well. So actually, let's do the 2nd. So we'll open it up in a new tab. And when we go in, we can see that in November 2nd, so let's go here. Um, let's say that we decided that our effectiveness was maybe a 4 this day, and and then we go back immediately here. Immediately, we have another 4 show up. Interesting. Let's say our output today was terrible. Let's say our output was only 50%, right? Immediately, that changes the whole average. It becomes 60% here. Let's say I have something that I was very grateful about. Let's say that we were grateful about something, and we go here and we say things that we're grateful for. We say, of course, support the community is something that we're always grateful for. But maybe on top of this, today we're grateful for like live stream going smoothly, right? So that's another thing we're grateful for. The second we add it in, right, and then we go back to this date, we see that it shows up here. So it's a really meaningful space for us to automatically showcase information that's been processed through our week, whether it be reflections, whether it be mistakes we've made, whether it be how many hours we slept, whether it be effectiveness of our day. Like, it makes it really easy for us to roll up all this information and be able to see everything that's been going on throughout week. So it's super interesting about that. And oh yes, we're also very grateful for Alice. So that's something that's also pretty cool, right? So basically, this whole thing helps you keep track of things that you want to keep track on. And even for this example habit, right? So let's say it's example habit. What we're rolling up on is writing. But anyway, it could be any habit that you want to keep track and see visually. So let's say on November 2nd that we also did some writing, right? We also did some writing. Or maybe we didn't do writing. Let's uncheck that. If we uncheck that, this also gets unchecked. It becomes 2 out of 7 instead. Or 2 out of 8, I guess, because it's also counting the October 31st. So this is super interesting, at least to me, because it makes it really seamless for you to kind of reflect on the week and how it's going, and really easy for you to keep adding new ones. So for example, if I want to add a new example habit, I just need to click this. I duplicate this property, right? And then we just call it example habit number 2. And then we configure the roll up and we change it from write. Let's say we say if you did something like if you, let's see, if you drank water, right? If you drank water, then we'll show up. So if I go into here and I go, no, the second, if I drank water and I check it up, so now we have one day that we drank water and we know it was the third day of the week. So pretty good, pretty easy. So what I'm suggesting here is that the top part of this database, which is everything here, is going to be the way that you can keep track of your daily habits and roll them up in a meaningful way into this kind of space for you to kind of reflect on. And by the way, guys, this is something that I just wanted to, I guess, show you for a quick second. Don't clip it. But basically, you'll notice that inside this database, we have a lot of admin stuff, right? And this is just something historically we've always had, just as an easy way for you to kind of, it's just the thing that's powering our whole database, right? For gamification and also for keeping track of information. Let me just show you quickly. So we can now hide information. So that's coming out soon. Stay tuned. But definitely something that is pretty interesting. I like it a lot, and it makes it really easy for us to kind of keep track of everything we need to keep track of. But of course, I like to show at least some of the information here, which is number of habits, the multiplier, and perhaps the tag is also important for us too. So definitely really, really important, really interesting for you to note that Notion's always coming out with cool stuff. Yeah. So let's keep going on, and let's talk about what else is inside this database. So we want to talk about recent successes. So what's really important here is that you have this month's wins and this week's wins. Now, if you really want this to kind of filter on, let's say, for things that are things that you're wanting to do this week, or things that you wanted to capture for this week, and again, be able to easily come back on, like whenever you want. Right now, this is a kind of a soft filter, which means that it's within the past month. So whatever month you go in to look at it, it's going to show you the things for that past month. That's kind of wrong in the sense that you want to be able to pinpoint exactly like, hey, this is the stuff that is that is going to, I guess, have a closing date between, you know, October 31st to November 31st, for example, or the week of October 31st to November 7th. And actually, I do realize that these are 8 days and we want to keep it 7. So we should be actually October, November 1st, November 1st to December, to November 7th. This is probably the better dates that we remove October 31st from this list, and it's actually November 1st to November 7th. Perfect. So for this month's wins, I would actually recommend you, every time you generate this new template, and again, it's a generation process. Every time you generate this new template, you can say like is within, for example, well, I guess we can do like it's on or after. It's on or after November, exact dates, November 1st, and duplicate this, is on or before November 30th. So you can see that that's kind of the date range for yourself. Oops, that's kind of the date range, and you can see what happened, you know, during this chunk of time and what wins happened there. And of course, you can also showcase this week's wins, and this is the same thing. Closing dates is on or after. We have a specific date of November the 1st, and then we can duplicate this on or before exact dates of November 7th. So you can see exactly these are the recent wins you've had. And then you'll notice that here we have 3 sections where we say, okay, so my process to review my week every week is I want to put myself through the founder mindset, I want to put myself through the manager mindset, and then finally I want to put myself through the project manager mindset. So the founder, I focus on areas and goals. So I look at what are the areas that I want to continuously improve in my life. So I take a look at, oh, these are all the areas that are in need of review right now. For example, like these are things I said I would look at quarterly, and now it's a quarter and I haven't reviewed it recently. So these are the things I need to look at. These are the skills and talents I need to look at. These are the daily quests I need to look at, so on and so forth. So that makes it really easy for you to look back. What goals are you most passionate about? So you can check in on all your goals to make sure that they align with what you want to accomplish. So all the things in progress you can take a look at and just kind of see like, hey, am I getting stuck? You know, what's happening here? Are these still the goals that I want to go through and continuously improve? And actually, one more quick thing, I'm going to flip my camera so that I make it easier for me to look into you guys. Flip, I think vertical. That was wrong. Flip vertical and then flip horizontal. There we go. I think this is better because then when I look at the screen, it can look more like I'm looking at the screen. Cool. So let me take a look here. I'm going to minimize that, and basically that's for goals. You want to check on the things that you're most passionate about, or you could filter by quarters, which I don't think necessarily is so meaningful right now, but I would say filter by the in progress is pretty good. I'm gonna keep removing stuff here. I'm gonna remove stuff here, and we'll just keep the in progress. Let's delete this. So we say goals in progress. Okay, so these are the goals in progress we have, which is all everything in that success plan. And then finally, you might also want to see like what key results are important for you to accomplish, which are coming up in the next week. So these are the things that you might want to do. So these are all like, so again, the thing I want to teach here is that there's a difference between soft deadlines, or not soft deadlines, but soft filters, which are something like this, where you see that, hey, these are all the things that are coming out within the next week, for example. And then you want to see like all the things that are kind of hard deadlines, are hard dates, which is like everything between like November 1st to November 7th. Yeah, so this is going to be new, Dad. This is a brand new database. Yeah, so this will come out in the package I'm going to deliver today for you all. But this is something I'm going to want to teach how to build. So the weeks I've already fleshed out a lot, but for the months one and for the year one, that's the one I'm going to be building out together with you, like on a very consistent basis, like so on a very detailed basis. right now. Just want to make sure that we get this though, because these are the things that we're going to be doing as we go through. It's like the whole process is, what do we want to roll up in our dailies? What do we want to roll up for our success plan, like things that we've reasonably accomplished? And what do we want to roll up for everything else? So another thing that you might want to roll up, just being clear. So for example, these are like, let's call this like probably, um, you know, review your week. Review your week, right? So these are recent successes you've had within your week. So review your week, we put a div there. And then recent successes, you know, recent learnings, right? And this is where we can put things like the books we've read in that week. So let me show you how to easily pull up other stuff. And the whole idea about our packages and our templates is that we make it really easy for you to pull out views from our other pages. And that's the whole point of why we keep so many dashboards here. It's not that we want to confuse you, but rather we think that there's so much that you could expose for yourself to see that it's not meaningful for us to kind of make a strong decision on what you should be showcased and what shouldn't be showcased. But for example, here we can copy this, right? And then we go into our week. So recent learnings, we can have now a database that also shows our recent books that we've read. So our residence calendar, and then we can see things that we've modified recently. So we can filter and we can say not only status in progress, but actually last edited is on or after. Or actually, let's say within. No, it's on or after. We do exact dates of November the 1st, and then we duplicate is on or before November the 7th. So you see that this is already very cool, very easy. You can instantly see like what were your recent successes, what were your recent learnings, and so on and so forth. So it makes it really easy for you to kind of see. And again, the whole idea is that we're basing it off of our core databases, right? So really cool stuff like that. Another thing you could do is you could easily drag this to the side. So if you wanted to make it like kind of stacked horizontally, or I guess, yeah, horizontally, I think is the right thing to say. You can see it like this. So you can have on the left side your week's wins, on the right side the things that you're learning, like all the resonance calendar stuff that you're learning. So let's rename this to recently complete or recently modified. And then we're going to delete this one here, and you can easily see on the left side this week's wins, and then we on the right hand side we can see all the resonance things that we've learned. So really easy. And then so review your week, and then we have the section for reflect or plan your next week. So this whole section is all about planning your next week. So you want to put yourself into the founder mindset, into the into the manager mindset, into the project manager mindset, so that you're planning your next week very effectively. So like I said, areas, goals, key results. So maybe we want to underline those, make it easier for you to know exactly what you're going to work on, key results. And then for the manager mindset is, what projects do you want to work on? And again, by the way, the limit to X is just my way of saying like, hey, I don't want to overexert myself. I know that I can realistically, focus on 4 goals at a time. I can realistically focus on 6 key results on a per week. And projects, if I have more than 6, I'm going to not really do anything meaningful. So for me, like I like to have little reminders like, hey, you should focus only on 6. You should only focus on 4 or whatever, so that I don't overdo myself or overdo anything that I should be concentrating on. So you can see like these are all the projects that we currently have in progress. So you kind of want to make sure that these are really the projects that you want to focus on for the week. Make it super simple. For the project manager mindset, this is very executional. So like, what due dates do I have this week? What DUE dates? I'm being really clear. I'm only scheduling the things that are very urgent. What are the DUE dates I have this week? And then if I have DUE dates, then I need to set the due date for sometime this week to do. So let me just capitalize this to make it easier and more recognizable, and then we want to set a due date for sometime this week. So basically, I have this where like, hey, these are all the DUE dates I have for the week to come. So again, I say that it's not complete, and due date is on or before. I'll say today, but like let's say is on or before exact date, and the exact date is on the 7th, right? So again, we can see all the things that had a due date before the 7th that weren't complete yet, and then we can schedule a DO date, a day that we want to do something within this week. So we make it really easy for us to kind of be like, okay, I now have a grasp of what's happening this week. And again, the whole point is that we want every week to be refreshing for you. We don't want you to be kind of going into the week anxious and worried about how the week is going to look like. Like by going through this whole process and including the late tasks too. Let's do that first before I talk about that. But if I also have all the late tasks, what are all the late tasks I have, and then how can I do something about it, right? How can I schedule, like, so not only what are my late tasks, let's schedule a day to do them this week, or actually what I can remember. So this is what I do how I tackle late tasks, right? Steps to tackle. And for Dan, the due dates is not only unique to tasks, it applies to projects and up as well. So it definitely applies to everything that might have a definitive deadline that someone else is enforcing on you. So how I think about it is the DO date is something that you enforce on yourself, and the DUE date is something that other people enforce on you. And you want to mostly have self-enforced timelines more than other people enforced timelines, because the reality of life is like, especially when you start be doing more creative work, especially when you start doing more like entrepreneurial stuff, even nobody's forcing you to do anything. You're doing things yourself. So it's really good to get in the habit of setting your self-imposed deadlines so that you're more productive on your own terms, and not because someone else is forcing you to do it or someone else expects you to do it. So for me, steps to tackle lateness, and again, this is entirely up to you on how you do it too. But then for me, is like I like to reschedule a DO date for something for tasks that need to be done. Also add a priority so we know that it is important to do. And then usually I like to add eat the frog, and let me show you why that is. So we had a really meaningful conversation with some of our inside our accountability squads, and we talked about how one of the priorities that is probably really meaningful is eat the frog, which means that this is the hardest thing we have to do. We've obviously been putting it off forever, and this is something that we should do. This is like the first thing we should do, if anything, for that day. So basically, we have eat the frog as one of the highest priorities, and things that we really have to do is like, hey, this is the thing that we have to focus on. First thing we wake up, this is what we do. Nothing else starts until this is finished. So eating the frog is super important. So basically, this is the hierarchy: eating the frog. First priority, second priority, and stuff like that. Like, so maybe these are ways that you can consider that these are the things that you might want to get done. So that means do a green background for eat the frog. Let's do a actually, it doesn't really matter. We'll change that later. So basically, like, this is essentially a really good way for you to tackle your late tasks and kind of imagine like, what can I do about them. And again, the whole point is, as you go through this, you should be able to have like meaningful next steps. Like, you don't want to get lost. You want to be like, okay, I have all this junk now that is late. What do I do next? I have all this goals now that I don't care about. What do I do next? How do I make a new goal? How do I redefine my goals? These are all the questions that you want to ask yourself and have meaningful prompts on. So this is kind of something I really like to do every single week, so that it's really important for me to go through this step. So what happens when you're done all this, right? When you're done all this, basically what happens is I now am looking into the week saying like, hey, these are the areas I'm going to improve this week. These are the goals I'm going to focus on. These are the key results, the outcomes I plan to achieve. These are the projects that I'm going to focus on. And again, only the ones that I can focus on, right? These are the due dates I have this week. So therefore, these are the must do's this week. These are the ones I'm going to schedule my own self-imposed deadlines to finish. And these are all my late tasks, which I now have an actionable plan to tackle, and they're not just going to be late for no reason. That's really cool. But what else? Everybody has their own unique workflows, right? Maybe you are going, maybe you want to go through an email review. Maybe you want to go into a book review. Maybe you want to get to inbox zero. Maybe some people, except for example, like I do, like I have like a newsletter that I have to write, right? So newsletter, right? Newsletter compilation. Like there's so many things that you might have that are unique workflows to you that you want to put here and make it into your own kind of checklist to go through every single week. Let me explain what I mean. So for me, let's say for example, for the book review, right? I'll do two examples for you, perhaps. So for my book review, I'll first go into my residence calendar, right? And again, this is something that you could do that is like, this is up to you. And this is why it's hard for me to do, because I don't know if you want to, like how you plan to go through this process. But let me suggest you something, right? Let me suggest you something, show and hide. What I like to do is I like to stay on one page, and I like to use toggles to help me do that. So for example, if I want to go into my residence calendar, right? Why, instead of clicking on the link to go to my residence calendar, I'd much rather just have my residence calendar to be showcased in this page. So I would just say, hey, take a look at my recent learnings, the recent things I've added in. Okay. So these are my recent learnings. And then I'm going to go through this checkbox process, basically. So I'm going to move this show hide to probably this section. Okay. So what happens is now if I want to do my learning review, right? I'll go into my residence calendar. I'll take a look at and see recently modified. I'll summarize. I'll conduct progressive summarization if haven't already. And then I will also want to add to rem notes, add golden nuggets to rem notes. Again, if haven't already. And then finally, I want to see if I can tag them to relevant projects, etc. So for example, if I had a book I was reading here, right, and I'm making a new one, just an example, example book. And I clicked absorb into long-term memory. Basically, I have all these prompts that help me do summarization, helps me do storage, and then helps me do processing, right? And then also all the original content can be put in here. So the whole idea is that now, actually, we should also improve this just a tad bit. I just noticed that. Since the view is on this, we can even have an image place here where we can put in, caption it. Can I caption it? No. This is where you can put the cover image, right, of the thing, and then essentially when we cover image it, it will show up here as the book cover image. So really cool. So for example, if I had a book, let's just call it, what's a cool book I've been reading recently? Oh, The Things You See When You Slow Down. This is by a Korean monk. Really amazing book. I really appreciate Hattie, who actually sent it to me. Love that. And then basically if I want to get the image, so I copy the image address. I then go back into my review cycle. I choose the image. I embed the link rather. I paste it. And now you have the book here, and then it becomes here. You can see the book like that. Anyway, just a small thing that you can do, and of course you can find a better resolution picture than I got. But basically the whole idea, and oh, and by the way, if you ever want to improve a template like that, you have to also improve the template. So we can just duplicate this, and then we'll add an additional page or additional thing up here. Call it image. Now it's approved. All right, amazing. So basically, now we can go in, and this is the checklist that I have to do, right? So as I go through, okay, I'm gonna see the recently modified. Great, I open it up. I'm gonna conduct summarization if I haven't already. So I'll go in and I'll summarize. I'll add the golden nuggets to it if I haven't already, and then I'll tag them to relevant projects, etc. So basically, this is the things that I want to do every single week as I go through my learning review. So that's super meaningful. And actually, I'm just going to do one last thing. I'm going to make it on the same level. Perfect. And of course, like another thing for me, for example, like newsletter compilation, right? I'm going to review what happened this week in the community, create a new project or create a new content, a new letter entry for newsletter, etc., etc. So basically, this is how I would go through my weekly to-do tasks and make it meaningful, because this is after I've kind of processed my whole week. Okay, and these are things that I'm going to be having to do either this week or next week, just depending on what your unique workflow is looking like. Do you guys have any questions about this? I know we spent a lot of time on weeks, but it's important because I don't think people have enough of a robust process to go through their weeks, as we kind of just discussed here. I really like having this opportunity to do that with you guys. And I'm also going to make this a toggle steps maybe. So everything is supposed to be toggled and hidden, so it's super easy for you to scroll through, super easy for you to kind of, oh, that's not what I want. Yeah, super easy for you to kind of understand what the steps are and what's the next thing to do is. Steps is here. And I'll just delete this for now because I don't think this is necessary for you guys. I'm gonna also add steps here. So toggle steps. Steps, and then let's also make this gray. All right, amazing. So what's next is I want to talk about, well, now that we have all these really cool properties that are filtering up to this weekly view, what then do we need to focus on in the monthly view, right? And the monthly view, I like the difference for the monthly. Yeah, Dan, sorry, just to answer your question too, like you think you fall too easily into having 45 unfinished tasks that are all due today or earlier. Exactly. So I think that, this would be super helpful for you because you can see all the late tasks. Again, you can see here it's already like pretty hefty, right? And you can change the DO dates, which is the day that you self-imposed. So you can make it more reasonable for you to do. Like this is something that you can do on Tuesday rather than last week Tuesday, right? And also setting the priority is super important for me as well, so that I can easily see like, hey, these are the things that are the first on my list no matter what. So that's super important. Okay, so now we have this, and I want to take your attention to review cycles. So I'm going to go in and say, okay, so for monthly insights that we have, this is the month we have of, let's say, November 2020. And we can see that it rolls up, for example, the week of October 31st, November 7th, and of course, everything else that is going to showcase there, right? So how I manage this database, basically, and of course, I only have 1 week to show, but let's also show some more weeks now. Let's just do that. So let me also take a look at this. Oh, something really interesting. Should I teach you guys global blocks as well? Okay, let me teach you guys global blocks. That's another thing I want to teach you guys. Okay, so uh, let's talk about toggles. Let's do global blocks. And I'm going to toggle this weekly workflows, weekly custom workflows. Let me teach you guys how to use this. So basically what I'm considering, because it would be very annoying, and I use annoying as the word, if every time you had to update a workflow, you would have to go in and change things. But then how do I do the checkboxes? Let me just think about that for a second. Because the checkboxes will also be the the checkboxes will also make it so that it's not so nice. I guess like what we could do is we could also make this a database. Okay, and this is where guys can see like the real thinking process. Okay, so there's three things you can do to make unique workflows, not only for a 1 week, because then every time you update the week, then you have to update the template, which is annoying to say the least. But you can also make it so you can make it be the same throughout all the weeks, right? Because it's gonna be the same anyway. A way you can do that is by setting up global blocks so that it's always referencing one global block, so that anything that you update is from there as well. Now the issue with that is when you check things off, then they don't necessarily update with you. Okay, I think global blocks is a bit too much just to teach right now. It's a bit much. I am thinking though that I would still want to have a database here, so I can show like, hey, these are all the unique workflows that I would like to go through on a week-to-week basis. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so let me, instead of calling it global blocks, so I'm gonna say weekly custom workflows. Our custom workflows, and I'm going to make this a table. Custom workflows, and then yeah, a global block usually means that any change is affected anywhere. So once you click the checkbox for one, it's checkbox for everyone, which is not the right process for a lot of things. But anyway, let me show you guys how this would look. So basically, I would imagine this to be, yeah, I like this process much better. Okay, so let me show you. So basically, we have three things. So let's say, for example, getting inbox 0 is something that I want to do every single week. Let's say that I also want to do a learning review, and I want to save start email. So learning review, save start email. Okay, and then what we have here is we're going to tag this with weekly, because there's going to be now some that are monthly. So we have the weekly ones here, and then now we also have our steps. So let's copy this and let's call this steps, and let's make sure this is a wrap cell. Awesome. So if we do this, and I'm just gonna put this into a notepad for a quick second so I can just copy and paste it into here. So steps: go into Resonance Calendar, conduct summarization, add golden nuggets to rem notes, and tag them to relevant projects. So these are the steps for me to do for this if I want to do it. Getting to inbox 0 is just what I want to do, and then save start email. Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, inside the week, I am going to add one more relational property. We're going to call it custom workflows. And this is going to relate over to, custom workflows. Okay. Once I relate over to there, I'm going to say, well, today or this week it's important for me to get to inbox 0. I want to do a learning review as examples, right? And then what I'm going to show here for unique workflows, I'm going to copy a linked view of this. I'm going to paste the linked view. And then inside this custom workflows, I'm only going to filter on things that are done weekly. So if tag contains weekly, and only things that are related contains this. So basically, now we have a self-relational database. So this is weeks completed. And I can hide this, and I don't care that it's weekly, and I only want to see the steps. And I also want to see the links, if any. So links, URL. So, and I guess I could consider here too that like I can just have this residence calendar inside here. So I perhaps could even just go into here and paste it into the body of this. So if I open it up, these are my steps and these are things that I need to do. And again, I can hide this week completed because I don't need to show this. I only want to see the exact steps. I want to see the links and everything. So I can even delete this property perhaps for the links. But it's up to you. If you ever want to have a link as well, like I'm not going to stop you, right? This is something that could be meaningful to you. And you can even have the steps within this database too. That's something that you can consider. So definitely that's something that you can also think about in that way. But anyway, the whole idea is that now you have all these steps that could be just showcased really easy for you. You can just open it up. Or you can just make this, I guess, a gallery view, which I actually would recommend. And then we just make this a gallery view and we just make it so that it doesn't have a card preview. And these are things that you got to finish for today. Like these are the 3 things you got to finish for custom workflows. And then maybe we can even make it so that, yeah, so custom workflows. So these are the 3 things you got to do. You open it up, you can see your steps. 1, you go to your residence calendar and you see you're recently modified. 2, you conduct summarization. Then 3, you store it, right? Store golden nuggets to remnote. And then 4, you can optional. You can tag them to relevant projects, etc. So these are the steps, and I go in here and I do the needful. Yeah, I think I like that. So it makes it really easy for you to take a look at and do. And yeah, so that's that. And I'm going to delete the table view because I don't think it's important. And getting to inbox 0 basically is that other database I was talking about here. So you can open this up and you can say, hey, this is the link to get to inbox 0. So perhaps, yeah, so basically you can even put the steps where you do. But because inbox 0 is already a well-defined database with well-defined structure, basically you can already just go into here and do what you need to do. So there's not much need for many steps and many processes for you to consider. And the really beautiful thing is that now you can go into here whenever you want, and you can easily see, like, these are all the things that these are all the custom workflows that you want to do. So, and you can see how many times you did it, how important they are, any kind of let's say prioritizing. All right, cool. The next thing we want to talk about is months. So hopefully that we can do this pretty short. But the whole idea is that every month you might want to create a theme, right? This is the theme for the month, maybe, and it's up to you to decide if you want to set this before the month starts or after the month ends. So whether you want to be proactive in determining the theme or you want to just reflect on the theme that has happened, right? So for me, this theme is all about moving, moving. It's all about transitions of life, right? Transition of life. So basically, these are things that I'm going to essentially think about how I'm transitioning through life. Vishal is asking if Notion is secure. If I put my contact details into Notion pages, is it safe? I mean, it's as safe as any SaaS app, I think, out there. Like, I think if you are someone that does project management on like, Jira or Asana or Trello or those kind of things, it's basically the same level of secureness. I would say if you're looking for something that is completely secure, probably something more self-hosted is something more your speed. But for me, just my perspective is that it's very, very, it's as safe as can be, like in relation to the other tools that you could potentially be using. Like even if you use like, let's say Gmail, right? Is that safe? I mean, Google has all your emails. Yeah. Okay, so basically what happens here is that because you have a relational property that relates to all the weeks, and again, you're going to have to manually enter the weeks once you get them in. But the whole idea is that you can kind of see like, hey, these are all the things that you're tracking for that week. And of course, you can see example habit 2 and stuff like that. So you can see like these are all the things that you're kind of tracking, like all the mistakes you've made and all that kind of thing. This, all the mistakes you've made, all the example habits. So you can kind of have like a really good view of what's been happening throughout that month for you, especially in terms of the week. And then they all stack on each other, right? So you can see, hey, maybe this is like my average output for the week. This is my average sleep for the week. This is the average right here. Actually, let me also add some of the information so that it's easier for you to see. So let me do that. So the first thing I'm going to do quickly, so the first thing I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to just make this into the template. I'm going to add this to the template. So what happens is if I want to go to my weeks and I make a new template, for example, I'm going to say new week, and I can add an icon for whatever a week represents to you. Maybe a week for you would be, let's just find a cute icon to use. A week might be, let's say, what's interesting here? A week could be, yeah, maybe a running person. A running person is a week, perhaps. Again, you can just change this whatever you want. So there's a running person for a week, and then I put information in here. Okay, awesome. So basically what happens now, oh, and I need to just do one small thing. I need to make this into a full width. I need to drag recent learnings over to the right. I need to drag success plan into here, residence calendar into here. We're planning our next week, custom workflows to do. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to show you guys is if I go into here and I say, okay, I have a new week to do now. This is week of November 8th to November, and let's double check, when from the 8th to the 14th, right? So November 14th. And the month for this is November 2020, obviously. And then the daily quest for this is going to be, actually then maybe we move this higher up so it's easier for us to select. So the daily quest for this is going to be everything from November 8th to November 14th. Now, how I would normally do this is I would just go into the daily quest database, because then I can just copy and paste things really easily. And I can go over to my monthly view and I can see everything stops at the past month. Excuse me. So actually, let's add a new view. Let's duplicate this. Let's say easy add to weekly review, and then we can now filter this. Is going to be within the next month, perhaps. It'd be super easy for us to see. Or we can make this filter within the next week. We can see this is 8th to 14th. Super simple, right? So now we can show the property for the week. And now we can click here and we can select the November 8th to November 14th, copy, and then we drag, paste. Now, instantly, if we go to our review cycles, for our daily quest is all filled out from the 8th to the 14th. And of course, you can rearrange them so that it's like as you like it, but these are just minor details, in my opinion. These are not so important. But basically, you can now see like these are all the details. This is like November 8th to November 14th. And if I had data in them, they would essentially come up. And if I click new week, basically everything that we just defined, everything that we just built starts coming out here, and I can easily go in and process my week and plan out the week to come. So this is something that we'll have to do. Now, what's important though is that if I go into now the month in review, I can now see that, hey, you know, the weeks are not just October 7th, October 31st, November 7th, it's also November 8th, November 14th, and all the information there is also going to filter in the effectiveness, the gratitude, the mistakes, you know, the outputs, the sleep average, the habits that we're trying to track that we think are really meaningful for us to kind of see, like all the things that we've processed through. That's all kind of showcased. Again, we can see recent successes for the wins for the month. That's definitely good. If you want to, you can also see the recent the recent things you've read for the month as well. That's up to you. I think that like the books recently read is over here if you want to see it. So let me just make this a new page by itself. So right here is if you want to see recent successes, books recently read, you can have that kind of compiled here as well. And then what you can do is something that I like to do is I like to think about like what are my breakthroughs this week, this month. You know, what are the big things that I kind of realized? What were the activities I've done this month? You know, what are the things that I thought was something meaningful that I want to remember that, hey, this was something that, you know, was something that I really liked about this month. So this is something that is meaningful to me, but one thing that was discussed and kind of considered for everyone, and I spent a lot of time interviewing a lot of people in our community about like how do they process, you know, their month in review, how do they do their week in review, like what is that kind of process for them that makes it meaningful. And a lot of people have told me that like, hey, you know, what's really important for me, Conrad, is how can I see a lot of information that I've forgotten, right? And again, that's been a recurring theme about everything that we've been doing today about these weekly review cycles or monthly review cycles as well, is that how do we get the system to tell us, you know, things that are things that we have forgotten perhaps already. So for breakthrough wise, I was thinking about like, because I do have like a section inside our daily quest, and if you don't know about that, let's take a quick look. But we have a section inside our daily quest which kind of asks like, if I generate a new daily reflection, you can kind of see like you can kind of see, for example, any breakthroughs, insights last night, right? So we have a section for that, and I don't know if that should become a database, because if that's a database, then we can reference it here in our monthly review, right? But if it's not a database, then we gotta come in and make our own kind of analysis on what breakthroughs we thought was important for the month. This is something that you can do by yourself. I think I've already taught you how to go in and make something a database and then reference it in different places. For me, it's not so important because I like to even think about it myself. But I know for sure a lot of people would prefer that it just showcases for them, and then therefore they can just review it instead of plan it. But for me, like to be clear, like I'd say that the review your month section is like this top bit. So this is review your month up here. This is all about reviewing your month. Review your month. And then everything down here is like plan your next month, right? Or everything down here is plan your next month. Right. So up here is also review, and again, it's up to you if you want to make this automatic. Somehow every single week, every single day that you can put things in there and kind of realign yourself, or you can make it so that it's things that you are thinking about actively. Okay. Planning your next month is interesting. Like this is all the places where it's kind of like um, I want to call it it's the maintenance of your database almost like it's maintenance of your life system. It's like okay, these are all the things that are still falling through the cracks. These are all the things that I want to kind of look at from a different perspective, because you have to remember like for the weekend review what you're basically looking at is how can I put myself in founder, manager, and project manager, right? But for me, the monthly review is more about like, hey, how can I even go above that, right? Like if I'm considering this the business of me, right? Which you should, by the way, you should definitely consider yourself as a business in the sense that you should focus on growth. You should focus on, well-being. You should focus on like consider yourself someone that, you know, um, you want to take care of, right? And I think a lot of people forget that. So if you are someone that you should take care of, then usually you have a board of directors, right? You have like the board, that's going to be managing the direction of the company. And again, the company is you. So if like in this case, if normally every week you're kind of going through a process as employees, the month to me is the process as a board member, right? So as a board member, what are you concerned about? And again, if you don't run a business, this analogy might be going over your head. Let me know if it is, but I'm happy to explain what I mean about it because I think it's a really important concept that people don't really know about perhaps, and then if they do know about, they don't really apply it to this part of their life, which is so I really want to make this really clear. So um let me just talk about this for a second because I think it's important. So what is important as a board member to do, right? And again, I'm putting this in perspective of a personal, like your own personal like outlook, right? But as a board member is you want to make sure that direction is sound, right? You want to make sure that your life is heading towards a direction that is meaningful to you. Um, you want to make sure company values are followed through, right? So that's something for you to kind of consider. And then also, well, thanks Alyssa for saying that. So I know what to explain more. Perfect. I'll dive into that as well. So you want to make sure that the company is going into a direction that you want it to go. So therefore, you want to make sure that company values are followed through. You also want to make sure that perhaps well, something else that is important for you is you want to make sure that deliverables are kind of let's say deliverables are followed. I think that's important. And then another thing you might want to do as a director, let me just double check one thing. You want to make sure good habits are being built. Okay, so let's explain this for a second. So again, if the analogy is that you are every week in the more action seat of what you're about to do, so like you're getting things done, you're planning out, what you want to get done, in terms of like your goals, your key results, like your why, what's, and how's, right? These are things that are very executional by nature. These are things that you're planning to execute on. As the director or as someone that's a bit higher level than that, you're trying to focus on what is necessarily meaningful for you. So meaningful as in like this is the business of you, and this is where you're going in life, right? So it's a chance for you to kind of reconsider a lot of things that you may be taking for granted, in the sense that, or nothing for granted, but like things that you don't need to worry about on a day-by-day basis. Let's just start building this, and I think you'll get it. Okay, so basically what I first want to see is like, these are my areas, right? So I want to review and refine our areas. That's definitely the first thing we want to do. So let's take a look at this, and review and refine areas. And again, I like to just have the areas database right here, because why have it in anywhere else? I'm going to go into our Make Life Simple database, and I'm going to show you guys where that is. So I'll Make Life Simple right here, Make Life Simple. And I'm just going to pull over one of these things, the areas of competence. So I'll tell you guys what you want to see. So November. Okay, so we have this areas of competence, show hide. Put that inside a toggle. And here's the steps that I want you to follow through every single week, right? Or that I believe you should follow through every single week. Make sure the areas are still resonating with you, and remind yourself what you are building towards. You also want to double check. It's like, hey, you know, are there enough goals to make this area to continuously improve this area? What other goals can be considered, right? So then you're starting to plan out goals that you might want to consider for constant improvement of this area. So the first question is this area even important? Second question is, if it is important, how do I follow through with it? How do I make sure that I actually get somewhere with it, right? And then the last thing I'd say that you might want to do here is you might want to, well, I think this is good enough for now. Like, those are the two big things that you should consider. It's like, hey, you know, this is something that I said I wanted to do, but am I really going about and doing it, right? That's the first thing. The next thing you want to do is you want to, I don't want to call it clean up your database, right? But it's almost like that, where you want to, you know, review and refine goals. Let's say goals. Toggle show and hide. So we want to do a few things. We want to mark our completed goals. So maybe you've completed a goal and you forgot about doing that. You want to update your goal timelines in case that the timelines are not necessarily very clear. And you might want to talk about any new goals you have, right? So those are things that you might want to do. And then I'll add the database there in a second. I just want to get all the key points in. All the key points in. So let's call this habits. Review and refine habits. So you see that it's actually becoming very segregated, which is an interesting thing, because mostly in our minds we forget about all these different things that we're working on in order to pursue towards our personal growth and development. We forget that we can actually split up things in goals, habits, you know, key results, etc. So it's really important for you to kind of see like all your trends basically, and then you can kind of use that as a way to gauge like process or progression. So review, check. So we want to say toggle show and hide. And here is where we can expand, and we can say ensure habits are over 70% complete for the month. And then if they're not over 70%, refine them. So we find out why we're not doing it over 70%. And if it's over 70%, we immortalize them. So let me talk about that for a second. Okay, so first, goals refining. So what we want to do is we want to actually pull out this goals here, and that's not highlight everything, but let's just open the goals, and we take on this goals in progress. Right here, we mark. So everything here are your goals in progress, and you mark your completed goals. Perhaps you finish something, you update your goal timelines, and you say if there are any new goals for you to consider, right? So super easy. These are things that you should do on a monthly basis so that you are making sure that things are kind of moving along, chugging along the way that you might want to. I'm going to take away any new goals here just because I think that that's part of the previous process. I'll take away this for now. But basically, this is something that you can do to review and refine your goals. Then when you review and refine your habits, basically what I recommend here is I'm going to pull out the daily quest, and I'm just going to copy this database on the whole. I'm going to create a linked database here, and I'm going to filter by only by the month. So if the date is or wake up time, I think. If the wake up time is on or after exact dates of November the 1st and is on or before exact dates of November 30th. So basically what happens here is if I only show the properties I care about, let's say I only want to show let's say I'm only tracking like, give me a second here, I'm going to just say, okay, I only want to see if I wrote that day, if I want to see if my gosh, so many properties. We're keeping track of a lot of stuff. So if I drank water, if I exercised, if I had a meaningful convo, maybe. Let's just keep it down to few. Okay, so you can see here that we immediately are showing like all the. Let's also show wake up time. Yeah, so these are all the different days for the month, right? So again, we're just trying to see all this stuff. And what you can do is you can calculate percentage checked and percentage checked and percentage checked and percentage checked. So for example, if I go through this and I realize that, hey, I actually have not done more than 70% of this month. I haven't been drinking water. I haven't been exercising. I haven't been writing. I haven't been whatever, right? And you can see it really easily on the bottom here. I think you guys can see that. But basically, if you have that information, you can make it really meaningful for you to say like, okay, these are all the things that I need to make this habit more robust. But on the flip side, if you're hitting it in your stride, you can define that says, okay, maybe I don't need to work on this so much anymore. Maybe this is something that I can now put on the back burner and focus on another habit instead, right? So immortalize them by refine them to make them more attractive to do. If over 70%, hide them because you are already doing great, right? So basically this is a good process for you to kind of see like, hey, how many of these things that I set out to do are actually getting done, and you can easily just add new ones, right? So maybe one more thing is you can say choose 4 habits to focus on this month to build, right? And then we ensure that these habits, so basically these are your 4 habits to focus on. So this is a really good way for you to also decide what habits you want to focus on every single month. And if you do want to, you can even add like a little indicator, right? So we say focus, so like maybe you can put like, you can add that here. So then from now on, whenever you're actually doing the thing, like in your day-to-day, you're just checking things off, you notice that this has the focus emoji or the focus text. It's completely up to you though, however you want to do this. This one's actually very, very flexible. Perfect. So that's review and refine habits. I also want to give you guys something here where so you have your goals, you have your habits, and I'm going to remove the link. Okay. Another thing that you could be doing is update your projects or so let me do that now. So I'm going to make a checkbox here. Review and refine projects. And you'll notice that I skipped key results. I think you could probably put key results here as well. But for now, the project one, why I find is really important is because this is time for you to move. So let me just double check this. Yeah, so we want to mark completed projects. We want to update project timelines. And then one big thing that we want to do here that we don't do for anything else is we want to make successful projects into masters or trackers. That's something that's really important for you to do, and I don't think people do enough. So you can make successful projects into masters and trackers. And again, I'm just gonna pull over the database from this side just because I think it's really important here. So right here, I'm gonna copy it and I'm going to paste it inside here. Amazing. Okay. And then I think the last thing we'll do is just also add in the here, I'll delete this. So areas, goals, projects. We need key results. Do one last one, review and refine key results. And then we do a toggle for show and hide. And then what we do here now is we're saying that, okay, so for key results, we also want to do the same thing. So mark completed key results. And then we also want to change update key result timelines. And then the last thing we want to do here is we want to copy this. And then the key result timelines. I think that's good enough. Okay, awesome. So without further ado, I think what I want to also say the final step here is also the same as the final step for the weekly, is that we want to have unique workflows to do as well. So I'm going to add unique workflows to do here. And then I'm going to add inside this page, because remember we have all these things down. You'll see the power of this is we have things that we might want to do monthly, right? So this becomes your monthly to-do list. So in a monthly to-do list, maybe you have like, you know, check on investments, right? Maybe that's something you do monthly. Maybe you want to do finance management, right? Maybe you have a process to pay bills. So these are all the things that you might want to do on a monthly basis. And again, because we have all these databases that are so super, and again, we filter here actually. Get a filter for weeks contains October 31st here. Okay, so we take this and then we put it into here, into this unique workflow. And then now we have this where it contains instead our, so weeks contained, we can say month contained. So let's do that. So weeks completed, we can have month completed. This becomes a relation. We want to say our months database. We create that, and then now we can say within this month, so this is custom workflows, and then we can say, oh, we monthly want to do finance management, we want to pay bills, we want to check on investments. So these are the things we're going to do every single month, and it's going to show up here because we're going to check on months completed, and it's going to be November 2020. Now we can see these are the things that we want to do, and maybe you want to do a Costco run and stuff like that, so you can add it here. From now on, I also want to do a Costco run, right? So the tag is here, it's going to be monthly. A Costco run is monthly, and then you can see that is some of your workflows to do. Right, so hopefully that was meaningful for you for the weeks and months in review. I think we're not going to get to quarter reviews anytime today, just because we have so much I still want to talk about for other stuff. So for now, let's only focus on weekly insights and monthly insights. And of course, once you guys try out for yourselves, we'll be able to also learn more about how we can be doing this better and what we can do to improve the process. So definitely super excited about that. Let's quickly skip over to the next thing. I do want to say, I want to create one more thing that's meaningful for us, which is let's do the values aspects database first. I think that one is important. So in the habits database, basically it's just for your information. I'll do it off stream, but basically it's just a way for you to keep track of all the habits that you're building, and not lose track of them, and be able to immortalize your progress in them, even after, let's say, you change the name of the habit, or even after you basically the whole idea is that to handle your projects, you can also use the habits database to keep track of the habits that you're trying to build. So it's just an easy way for you to essentially keep track of that information. Anyway, so what we're doing here for the values database, though, is super important because I think a lot of people have been asking me for this. So I'm going to make this a header too, but basically why, what, and then how. Why? On top of knowing, why we are doing something. So this is the goals. What we want to achieve, the key results, how we are doing it, projects/tasks, and also of course like the area of our lives this improves. We also want to know what fundamental values this item delivers for us. What fundamental values this item is working on. So for example, some examples are, let's say examples are like, if your values are to be a honest person, or I give to every person that I can, or maybe be as friendly as possible, or have high integrity. Well, I guess that's like being an honest person / have high integrity, be as friendly as possible, etc. So basically, what we're gonna do is we want to easily have a reference database that allows us to see all our principles and how we are working towards them, or uh, or in line with them with our day-to-day um, tasks and behaviors. And then basically the how is um, a database for values that relates to success plan, areas of competence, also our future habits database as well. Okay, so um, let me describe this in game terms, because I think everything in game terms makes a lot more sense. It's just easier for me to explain and easier for people to perhaps understand as well. So, in regards to game terms, usually when, or even like movies, right? When you see a character you really like, they basically have very strong personalities. I mean, usually that's one of the redeeming factors. How you distinguish one character from another is that they have very strong personalities, and that personality usually dictates what they're going to do in certain situations, right? You can kind of guess, oh, that character is going to be an asshole, or pardon my French, but a terrible person in this situation because that's the way they are. That's the way they presented themselves. And perhaps when they have that one redeeming arc, when they're not a bad person, that kind of like was like a shock to everybody, and it's their start of their redeeming, stage of life, right? Those are actually called aspects. If you think about it in terms of games, those are the aspects of your character that kind of dictate almost how you behave in certain situations. Now, what is important here is a lot of us don't actually recognize what aspects we have. It's not obvious to us, perhaps, what aspects we hold, and or we call them fundamental values aspects. I don't really know or care what you call them, but fundamental aspect, values, aspects, personality traits. Like I think personality traits is a bit off, but definitely fundamental values and aspects is more on the dot there. But basically, it gives you the indication of who you are and where you want to go and what you believe and all those kind of things. So what's really important for some of us is making sure that when we define out the things that we want to do, they're consistent with who we believe we are. And this is an interesting proposition, because I'm always of the opinion that you can choose who you are, you can change who you are very easily. Or not very easily, sorry, but it's a growth cycle, right? And this kind of gives you this database is intentioned for you to get an interesting and important outlook on what exactly you believe in currently, and then what you're working on in order to supplement that belief, and then of course then what your progression is from then on. Like, of course, if that fundamental value stops becoming relevant to you, then where do you go from there? So let's just build it, and we'll be able to see what that's all about. I'm probably going to build it inside mindsets, inside a sub area for mindsets. So let's just call it this. This is our values. Let's call it that. This one is a tracker, a place to store everything we believe in, and the steps and the actions we take to build them. So basically what we're doing here is we're going to be making this into a database. So interesting, we already have a database for this. What do you guys think if we just make this, like, so instead of having area, master, and tracker, we also have values? I like that, guys. Guys, I really like that. Okay, so I think I'm gonna do it like this. Okay, so let's delete this. And right now, I'm gonna suggest something a bit radical. I'm going to add a view because I'm going to duplicate the copy of areas. I'm going to make this a view for um, values. And then I'm going to make a new one in here. I'm going to make this value. Uh, and then we're going to filter if type is value. So basically what I'm thinking about here is you can put all your values here, and let's just do some examples. Um, Maybe you want to be dependable, right? Dependable. Maybe you want to be reliable. Reliable. Maybe you want to be, I want to have high integrity, right? Maybe you want to have high or efficiency, efficient. Basically, this is the place for you to kind of say like, hey, these are all the different things I believe in for myself. Like, I'm a dependable person. I'm a reliable person. I have high integrity. I'm an efficient person. You know, I'm a loving person or kind person, and all those kind of things, right? So loving, um, where I'm kind. So basically, this is the way for you to kind of be able to determine all the different values that you hold. And of course, this can change. You can make them into a sentence format, like, or you can even add in a summary. I want to be the most dependable person. You know. So basically, that shows you a bit of it. You can add like a little screen capture for like whatever dependable means. So for example, if I add a cover, right, I can change the cover on slash dependable. Um, maybe carry. Maybe that. Okay, so I'm dependable, so that's something that you can put there, and etc. etc. But the most important thing here that I like is that we can actually make this now tie into everything else we do, right? So for example, if I'm inside my success plan, and let's just open that up really quickly, inside my success plan, we can see that, for example, if I want to um, be more mindful, right? Be more mindful would be becoming more loving, right? Or becoming more kind. So these are things that we can now tag onto here where we can say like, hey, you know, this is the area. We can talk about this is a mindset of area of mindset, but also this has values of maybe making sure that I am more reliable, I am more kind. So you can see that these are the things that you're working towards, building up towards that. And then what happens is now we can have this interesting database, which I'm now going to create. So I can pull over not just the goals, I guess, but also all the different things we're working towards, because it's not just goals anymore. So this is our success plan. And I'm going to filter, and this one is going to be based on reliable. So right now we can see like now this becomes something that you're working towards. This is one of the goals you're working towards to help you become more reliable. And of course, the same for any of the other values over there as well. So I think that's like something really meaningful. I think that this definitely is a work in progress still, but this definitely starts building up the idea that for yourself, you know, all the different kind of pillars that kind of make your life meaningful, right? So we talked about how For example, uh, not only you know why you're doing something, like at the end of this whole system, like what do you know, right? You know why you're doing something, you know what you want to achieve, you know how you're doing it, you know the area of life that's improved. So if you die tomorrow, God forbid, you know what will people remember you for? And then also people can know you for your values, like what values do you hold and how do you accentuate them in everything you do in your daily life. Right. So this was a pretty deep stream. Hopefully that uh, was useful for you guys, and obviously you guys will have the template to play around with very very soon. I expect by your Saturday morning, in Eastern Standard Time, you guys will have the database, the whole package for you to play around with. So please be excited for that. Um, Aside from that, I'm super happy that I got a chance to show off this whole new setup for you guys today, be able to talk to you all, and be able to have a very interesting conversation and build together with all of you guys. I guess if you guys have any last questions, happy to answer them. Otherwise, yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, week, and have a good weekend ahead. All right. If no last questions, then thank you so much for being around. Y'all take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye bye now.